Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. We have got a very interesting program today, folks. As a matter of fact, there has to be a number one somewhere, right? There has to be a number one when it comes to, football ratings. There has to be a number one when it comes to authors. There has to be a number one when it comes to podcasts. There has to be a number one when it comes to serial killers, right? Someone had to do it the best somewhere. Well, as a matter of fact, my guest today, I think, has found the best when it comes to murderers. As a matter of fact, a good friend comes back to the program today. Alan R. Warren is a best-selling author, producer, and host of the popular NBC radio show House of Mystery and Inside Writing. And he's come up with a brand new book in which I believe he's found the forefathers of greatness. That's right. If you thought America did serial killing great, no. He's come up with a brand new series called the International Serial Killers Encyclopedia. And his first volume was Murderous Minds Germany. Now, the Germans are known for great cars, right? But they're also, I think, known for serial killers. Now, you may say to yourself, well, Tim, they're known for great psychologists as well. The reason why they're known for great psychologists, and some people may argue that German psychology is a little out there. The reason why it's a little out there, read Alan's book, Murderous Minds Germany. There's a reason why their psychology is out there, because their killers were out there. We'll talk with Alan about it on today's show. Let me tell you a little bit about Alan before we bring him in. You're familiar with Alan as well from being with this program many times, and we're grateful to have him each time he's here. Again, the House of Mystery is a wonderful program. I encourage you to listen to it along with this program. You can hear it on 106.5 FM in Los Angeles or 102.3 FM, Riverside, 1050 AM, Palm Springs, 540 AM in Salt Lake City, KYAH, 1150 AM, KKNW in Seattle, Tacoma, and Phoenix. He has best-selling true crime books in Canada, include Beyond Suspicion, the true story of Colonel Russell Williams, which will be featured on CNN's Lies, Crimes, and Videos Season 4, and Murder Time 6, the true story of the Wells Gray Park murders. Here in America, his bestsellers include The Killing Game, serial killer Rodney Alcala, which was featured on several TV shows, such as Very Scary People with Donnie Wahlberg, Oxygen's Mark of a Killer, Reels' Killer Trophies, and soon to be included in a 4-part Sundance Channel documentary called Death's Date. His bestseller, Doomsday Cults, The Devil's Hostages, was featured on Vice's Dark Side of the 90s. Every time I turn on True Crime TV, I see Alan. I'm telling you, I see him. His latest series, Killer Queens, is a 6-part book series covering murders that affect the gay community. So far, it includes Book 1, Leopold and Loeb. Book 2, Butcher of Hanover, which the Butcher of Hanover is in this book as well. We'll talk about that today. Fritz Haarmann. Book 3, The Grinder serial killer, Stephen Port. And Book 4, Bruce MacArthur, the Toronto gay killer. Let's welcome in to True Crime Tuesday once again, Alan R. Warren. Alan, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. Boy, I sound busy.
You are busy, my friend. My gosh. One of the more prolific writers out there. On top of that, doing a wonderful radio show. So, I mean, I don't know. Do you sleep? Is that an option? No,
that's an issue. But well, I don't sleep well, so I just keep working. I keep writing, or I keep interviewing, or I walk my dog. That's my life.
I would hope you would walk the dog. The dog might get a little nervous if it just stays in one place. Yeah.
Well, he likes the bones.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, well, yeah. Right? I was going to say, yeah.
His name is Satan. No.
I was going to say, you didn't name your dog Satan, did you?
No, his name is Toby.
Okay, that's probably.
I actually never named my dogs because I get the old rescue dogs.
Oh.
I just had him 2 months. They send him over to me because I've got 3 acres, and the old ones that are put up for adoption or given away or whatever happens, nobody takes them from the pound or from any of the places. They always go for the young ones, right? So
yeah.
I just take the old ones. They know that. As long as they're medium to small, I don't want big dogs, just the smaller ones. And he's a Jack Russell. So, so I never get to name them. They come named already. And, but he's a good dog. He's a good dog. Yeah, he's good.
Oh, that's so wonderful of you. Yeah, Jack Russells. I mean, a lot of people say, well, Jack Russells are so high in energy, they're hard to take care of. They're not. They're wonderful dogs. So,
No, you just got to take them for, like I've already walked in we do a 5K every morning.
yeah.
I do that with any of the dogs that I have that are able to. And to do that every morning, that takes the edge off.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes them a normal dog, so to speak. Because they are wired. They do have an anxiety, but you just got to give them a little bit of work.
Yeah.
So you do the walk and come back, and then he's like right now, he is curled up and snoring now. So
See,
there you go.
You took it right out of him. You took it right out of him.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They just need to burn their energy.
That's right. That's right.
Just like serial killers.
That's right. Just like serial killers. If you just took them for a 5K walk every morning, you wouldn't have this sort of stuff happening. Right.
We certainly tone it down.
Right. Right. Speaking of, starting off this international series, boy, you started off with a bang, didn't you? I mean,
well, yeah. See, because Germany always inspired me to do research, because Germany does things precise, efficient. And so I'm always interested in that. And what got me into it was Fritz Haarmann, when we talk about that, when I did that Butcher of Hanover book. But there's so many killers over there, just like there are here, I guess. It's just what I found unique was they do things differently than, let's say, it's done in America or even Australia. Each country has their own personality. So I find Germany to have their own, and it's very unique.
I talked a little bit about it in the beginning of the program, talking about German psychology. And, we have some people in America here that kind of poo-poo German psychology and saying, well, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, right? But when you look at the personalities in Germany, putting it lightly, boy, is it twisted. I mean, you talk about, it takes a certain formula to make a serial killer, right? You add a little column A, a little column B, mix it together. Of course, that's going to create a serial killer. But when you read through your book, I mean, it's the worst of the worst on top of the worst, it seems like, to make some of the most devious serial killers in German history. And like you said, when they do it up, they do it right. I mean, you make a fine German car, you make the finest of the fine. When you make the best of serial killers of all time in Germany, you really do it up right. Well, what is it about Germany that goes above and beyond what we could even do here in America?
The beer.
Is it the beer?
It's hard to say. I think it's just a different culture, and that gets into everything that they do, just like in America. In America, I always call it the drive-through of killers, because our killers tend to be very loose, flyby, and not as precise, let's say. A lot of the German serial killers in here were very precise. They were calculated. They were more Hannibal the Cannibal, as you see in a movie. They were more thought out, but they also had different preferences. I mean, I think as high as 70% of the killers I went through like to eat or consume parts of their victims, whereas that's not that high anywhere else I've gone. Of course, this isn't 100% verifiable, but just of the, couple hundred of the main killers that I go through in each country in this, theirs was a very high percentage, double all the other countries that I've been through. So I'm not sure what makes that a thing in Germany, but I put it to the culture.
Again, that's okay. You can go stereotype and say sausage making. That's the first thing you go to, but you're right, and do the whole Ed Gein thing. But I mean, seriously, that when you start reading through the different cases and there's more than one case that goes back to, well, I was just illegally making meat in my home. That in itself is stomach turning, Alan.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and that's sort of, but and I don't mean that. Like when I say part of the culture, I'm not trying to say that, do the stereotyping. I'm not
Right.
trying to be assigning any sort of race thing. It's more about, for me, it's territory. It's where you're living, what's going on around you at the time, and how it develops, and how people react to what's going on around them. So life in Germany was different than, let's say, life in America. And it's nothing to do with the person themselves or who their parents were or their religion or anything like that. It's just to do with that the area they were living in and what they had to do to survive, and then how that affects the children and the other people around them. That's kind of how you have to look at it. So it's not saying, oh, Germans are this or that. It comes from the culture of the land that happens to be Germany. And a lot of these stories too, if you look back, that was before they were actually a German nation. There were several small little nations with kingdoms that were working together. So it was a sort of different sort of climate than straightforward America. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's a different, and that's what I mean by the culture, what is going on around them, and what's acceptable and what isn't. We can even see that now. I mean, what's acceptable 40 years ago in this country compared to what it is now? Like there's certain things that you could do or couldn't do 40 years ago. You know what I mean? It changes, and that has a big influence too on not only serial killers, but the whole how people do everything. So
Right. Right. Well, and there's a couple of examples right even in the beginning of the book. You talk about and you go as far back as 1500, even with Peter Stump, the Werewolf of Bedburg.
right.
And you, I mean, the some of the when you think about the brutality with Peter, and yet calling himself a werewolf, even though when you look at and tell people a little bit about Peter and what his case is and why he wasn't exactly a werewolf, yet he got away with calling himself a werewolf.
Well, you see, again, that's, we can call ourselves anything we want. And some people believe they're vampires, right? But, and again, a lot of this stuff, you have to take it with a grain of salt in the sense that this is something that happened back in the 1500s. And this also creates rumors and how people develop stories, and then over the hundreds of years, how it changes and changes, and we don't know what's true and what's not. We just try to put it together from as reliable a source as possible. That's the first thing you have to think about. So, but there were people. I mean, where he lived. In Germany, there had been a lot of, let's say, animal mutilations and cows being killed and slaughtered. And they, of course, this is where rumors come in, and people started believing that there was a wolf, and then it became a wolf creature, and then it became like a werewolf. I mean, people get more terrified and more panicked and stuff like that. And eventually that's how it goes. Now, and in this particular case, I know that there was a lot of farmers that would go out hunting looking for a wolf. And in this particular case, they found one, and they actually had its left paw, I believe, cut off. And so eventually the rumor became that it was a werewolf with no left hand. And Peter Stump had no left hand. So that was sort of like the tie-in right there. People would take that little gossip and turn it into him being a werewolf. And now he was a strange dude, of course.
Yeah.
He was practicing witchcraft, as he said, and like being a werewolf human and stuff like that. He was kind of having that kind of behavior was hard, and him admitting it it was easy for them to think that he's the devil or there's something wrong with him and stuff like that. So it just all led to that. And what's true and what's not, we don't know. But what we do know is that he did murder 16 people and rape several women. And even one of those that he had raped was his own daughter.
Jeez.
So he was not a good person, not a good character, but he wasn't a werewolf.
Yeah.
He was just, he was a psychopath, and he did a lot of bad things. And throughout this is one of those where we talk about food and eating the victims and stuff. He would describe, like even when he was at trial, he described how each one of his victims, he would remove some of the brain from the head, and then he would eat it. And he described the taste, the flavors, the smells, all of that stuff. So he was quite into that, I don't know. So he was a psychopath, but he became far worse of a creature in folklore than what was real. He was a serial killer, killed 16 people and was vicious, period. But he wasn't a werewolf, but they made it into that. And I think he played into it, honestly. I put him up with the Butcher of Hanover. I think he played into it for the court, for the publicity. It sounds strange, but he was one of those guys that really liked the attention. He liked being on trial. He liked being talked about. He liked being in the papers. He liked being in the public. So,
yeah. Well, the funniest thing I think out of everything is the fact that he claimed he had a magical belt that was given to him by the devil, right? And
yeah.
and when they asked him to produce it, he was like, "Oh no, I already gave it back to Satan. It's no big deal. Yeah, don't try to find it. Yeah, it's gone."
Yeah. Yeah. You see, but the thing, characters like this are important in history because they show you how this creates a whole society of people scared of, let's say, Satan and the devil, and it creates a whole atmosphere of he's just a person. He's not this magical creature and stuff. He's just a guy that goes out and kills people, and then he plays with this whole. It's an attention-getting sort of scheme. He knows the devil. He gets a belt. He does things. He gives it back. He makes it like he's part of that thing, and that shows this fearless attitude that he had toward authorities, police, and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, You can't touch me. I'm friends with Satan.
Now, Alan, the other thing that the Germans did probably better than raise serial killers is execute their serial killers. The way that Peter Stump was killed was unusual, I think. I mean, like from the 1500s probably through the 1800s, they had a wheel in which they put people on.
The wheel of fortune.
Yeah, the misfortune is more like it. And then they did different things depending on the crime. With Peter Stump, they put him on the wheel, and then of course they'd either, depending on the crime, I guess they'd either pick pieces of your flesh off or they break your bones. With Peter Stump, they put him on the wheel. Yeah. They broke his bones in several places. Then they take the backside of an axe, and then they, as they're ripping off pieces of flesh, they start hammering him in the back of the skull with the axe.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, I get, karma comes around, and there's different ways to die, and sure, it probably should be as painful as the pain you were putting out, but then they used. And I'm going to quote from the book here. At the same time, others were ripping pieces of his flesh off of his body by using red-hot grips that looked like large tweezers. They finally kill Stump by beheading him with an axe after a lot of this torture was over, after breaking bones and pulling off flesh with red-hot grips. They finally went, okay, enough's enough. Off with the head.
Well, I'm getting hungry. Well, I think again, especially in the 15 to 1800s, the greatest fear was Satan and the devil, and religion was the greatest protector, sort of thing. It was like evil versus good, and he represented the devil 100%. They had to make an example of him in front of everyone. They had to show how bad it was to practice witchcraft, how bad it was to be involved with that kind of satanic idea in their mind. So they made a big spectacle of it, and they got everybody involved, because you get people involved, then you've kind of got a lot of how do you say, people are really behind you. Then all of a sudden you get this great community all of a sudden working together to kill the devil. It creates a sense of community, and back then that was really important. And after they finished, remember, they took his head after they removed it, and they put it on like a spear, a big long stick sort of thing, and they put it in the middle of town, so everyone could see it daily, all the time.
That's crazy.
So, and then on top of it, you got to remember, when they not only did they kill him, but they also killed his girlfriend and this surviving daughter, just for knowing and just for being part of this, even though they weren't really part of the crimes or any of that sort of stuff. They were just, they wanted to kill anybody that was part of the family, to be honest. That was really their thinking, was you're all guilty, your kids, your wife, whatever. It's the whole thing, whether you knew anything or not. So as a member of the family, you would have to prove to the court that you had nothing to do with it, no knowledge. And even then they would still execute you quite often. So it was not good.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really, so again, atmosphere, that was acceptable behavior. And that's what you have to think about when you're talking about different times and different regions. So if the mindset of the community is such that it's doing this, they think this is good. This is normal behavior. So eating the victim's brains maybe isn't so far out when it compares to this. Do you know what I'm saying? It's sort of it's all part of the atmosphere. It's all very bizarre to us hundreds of years later and in a different country with different behaviors. But to them, this was part of day-to-day life. It's like going to a Starbucks today.
That's amazing.
Not that Starbucks is serving dead bodies.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, this is a day-to-day life. This is something that we do every day, go for coffee or do things, and you don't think about. It might be really bizarre and strange to another country in 400 years from what we are today. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of it seems out of place, but it was very normal behavior.
Right. I tell you what,
it was reactionary.
Very much so. Yeah. It's just a fascinating story, especially that far back. A good example of superstition playing in with madness, together with how they treated all of that back then, and a form of execution and punishment for that type of crime. It's just, the barbarism in all of that is just astounding, right?
Yeah. They were much closer to their religion in their day-to-day life and their interpretation of the Bible and different verses than what we are now, as a society. And that's not a judgment. It's just that's right. A lot of, the stoning for people and a lot of the ideas that were taught was closer to the day-to-day life. It wasn't unusual to do, like you were saying, the wheel and the stoning and the breaking of bones and stuff seemed to be an okay behavior.
Yeah, just
then.
Wouldn't bat an eyelash at it, right?
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was kind of like, and it was kind of, it wasn't, they didn't think of it like, oh my God, can you believe what they did? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They weren't going on their Twitter and complaining.
They weren't going on the medieval Twitter.
Yeah, the medieval Twitter. They weren't pounding it into their rocks and then posting it, that, oh my God, you see that they did. It's like I said, it sort of fits the time period, both sides, the killer and how he acted, and the policing and how they acted. It's just sort of, it was just how it was. You kind of have to look at the whole big picture to kind of get a better flavor of it.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Tell you what, we'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll go from a werewolf to a vampire. We'll talk about the Vampire of Dusseldorf when we come back. And we'll talk a little bit more about the culture of Germany and how things have changed from one extreme of punishment to another. I want to talk about exactly how we went from a wheel to different forms of punishment in executions in Germany. I find this fascinating. I don't know why, Alan, but just how they executed their prisoners and the death penalty in Germany, because it's the way you've documented it here. It's absolutely fascinating, and how serial killers have operated in Germany. I want to talk a little bit about that too, because it seems like I think there's a reason why Freud and Jung and all these different European psychologists operate the way they operate. When you look at the way serial killers are formed in Germany, there's really a reason why psychologists operate the way they operate. You begin to understand the criminal mind and why it's so tied to psychosexual means. And you understand why one feeds the other, when you start to study everything. And why Freud was the way he was. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think when you look back in history, and I look at myself more historical and historian than I do true crime killer writer, that's just a consequence of time. I'm really fascinated with the history more and the way people behaved and how society operated more than, let's say, particular killer. They're just kind of an example, if that makes sense. Yeah. I love the whole feeling, because you really got to see the whole picture, right, to understand, rather than Joe Blow killed so-and-so and he got hung for this. And it's not so much that, it's more about what actually is going on in society. I really hope that people get a feeling for Germany at 1500, for instance, if you're reading that kind of going, this is how people were acting. This is what people did. And then you can kind of if you start to feel, and I'm not giving any sympathy for any killer at all. I'm not doing it that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but you start to see the whole area. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. No, it's absolutely fascinating stuff. The book is out there right now. We have a link to it in the description of our program, and I want you to go get it during the break. Again, it's good stuff. It's fascinating stuff, folks. The book is Murderous Minds Germany. It's part of the International Serial Killers Encyclopedia, Volume 1. Alan R. Warren is our guest. He is the best-selling author behind the book. When we come back, we will talk about the Vampire of Dusseldorf. We come back right here on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Our guest, Alan R. Warren. The book is Murderous Minds Germany, part of the International Serial Killers Encyclopedia, Volume 1. Alan, you've outdone yourself once again. I know there's two other books that are out right now, and we'll bring you back to talk about those other books because they are fascinating as well, my friend. But we're starting with Germany because, hey, if any country did it up right in their history, it had to have been Germany. And it is incredibly fascinating. And again, before we talk about the Vampire of Dusseldorf, I want to get back to a point we got to in the first segment, which was this. When you look at psychiatrists such as Jung and Freud, and you look at kind of the hyper-violent, hypersexual ways that or theories, I should say theories that they had. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. You'll hear some American psychiatrists say that. and kind of throw their theories out, or their baby with the bathwater, so to speak. When you look at the culture that they came from and why the theories are structured the way they're structured, it all begins to make sense. When you look at the criminal element, and when you string together the serial killers that you've strung together in this book, and you start to read history from, the Middle Ages to current day, and you go, oh, now I know why psychiatry formed the way it formed in Germany. Because to treat the ill, you had to delve into that mind. And that mind was hyper-violent, hypersexual, and it was all one package. It seems like they were hand in hand. When you look at the serial killers of Germany, they really were, when you talk about pour one from column A, one from column B, it was hypersexual, cannibal, hyper-violent. And it seemed like they all wanted to fit, or most of them fit in those three categories, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was very, very big part of it, right? And it all makes sense. It all follows. That's why, the big picture of history and looking at what's going on in a place and in a region, and why people are doing something, and how the reaction is, and then how, the medical, community sort of follows through and decides and grows. So it kind of all makes sense. Philosophy all comes from our behavior and analyzing it into what it should be rather than what it is. And we're always doing that. We even do that today. But I think the truth is we never ever get to what we think it should be. It's rather depressing.
Well, no, let me ask you a what if. If Freud, let's say Freud grows up in America, in New York, let's say, does he come up with the same theories?
Well, in some aspects, yes, because there's human behavior that's the same everywhere, because it's part of just being human, no matter where you grow up and whatever's going on in the culture. But there's things that we develop along the way. So you're born and you're living in an area that certain things are valued and certain things are not. Certain things you get admired for, and certain things you don't. And then you take that, and then how you are treated from earliest memory, and how you grow up, and how you react to that treatment. And it's the combination that causes the good and bad outcomes. So he's going to have some of the same basic premises, but he's not going to have the same development because of what we do in a different country. And also if you're doing a different time, because you gotta, when you really analyze, let's say, killers, you've also got to look at their day-to-day life. What are they doing? Who are they living with? What's their relationship like with the people they live with, their parents, their family, their friends, who they work with, and what kind of jobs they do? Because that all plays into how they behave. So someone in 1950 is going to behave way different than the 1560, because their day-to-day life is totally different. When you live in a house, let's say, that has phone and running water and bathrooms and toilets, compared to when you live in a house that doesn't have any of that. It sounds very basic, but it's true. But it creates how we behave, how we think we should dress, how we should go out to the store. Do we have a store? Like, there's so many things to think about.
Right.
And when you get to the philosophers or the psychiatrists, they've got to understand all of that going into it. But I think some things will be the same, very basic things. The murdering is definitely one of those things.
The other thing I find fascinating is even we go from, there's like about 300 years or so between our werewolf and our vampire, the Vampire of Dusseldorf. Yet you see a lot of the same, even though there's a little more to do in 1883, you see a lot of the same pattern. You see a lot of the same lust. You see a lot of the same compulsion. And even though there's more to keep him occupied, you see a lot of the same dysfunction as well that starts him out, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. There's still the same issues. There's still the basic issue of love and hate, and it comes down to that, to accept it or reject it. And that could be from your parents, from your school, from your friends, from your family, from a lover. There's a lot of that. And it's how your mind is able to, let's say, how it's equipped to respond to it and what it does in to make things right in the mind, what it believes it's doing. So that's what I mean by the whole atmosphere. It's what you believe you're living in. It's what they're told. It's what they see and what they think is normal and what they think isn't. There's so many aspects to that. And yeah, it doesn't matter. It just is sort of, that doesn't change. Just how our behaviors are. Let's say it's how we take things out. In 1900, you're going to do different things than you do in 1500. Different ways of killing. I guess that would be a kind of a rude way of saying it, but it's different aspects of the killing, different aspects of achieving your goal.
Is it Peter or Pater? Did you pronounce his name Kürten?
Yeah, that's what I would say. It's Peter Kürten, but then we're saying it from an American point of view.
Right.
So,
his childhood alone sounds like a nightmare. His drunken father beat his mother in front of the kids. He'd force her to take off all their clothes in front of them. He'd have sex with her and make all the kids watch.
Yeah.
That's just for starters.
It's disturbing, right? It's really disturbing to hear about it now, but without being too callous, this was not an unusual situation. Ooh. That's hard to get your head around. But in a lot of the poor communities where they lived in one-room places, it wasn't unusual to have your parents have sex in the same room that you were sleeping. I think the one thing that was unusual was that he made sure everybody was awake and they all saw everything. They weren't trying to keep it quiet or on the down low, so to speak, and that they wanted to make sure that the kids saw it. And the father wanted the boy to know how to have sex with a woman. In a way, it was a lesson. So there you go. I mean,
wow.
that in itself, that's creepy.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
It's really creepy. But again, without getting it, I mean, when you read that story, it's really crazy, because then you could see him misbehaving right from the beginning. He started to take out his anger on girls and friends and try to drown them. And then he started working for a kind of an animal place, rescue sort of, or whatever they kind of were. And he started, killing animals and eventually started having sex with the animals. So that display from his parents created an atmosphere where he thought this was normal. It was a power thing, not a sexual thing.
Right.
When he was having sex, it's about being in charge, being the man, so to speak, or being the one that runs the household. This is how he figured. This is how he would take control. This is how he would be the boss. He would be in charge. Do you know what I mean? Of his own life, his own destiny, whatever you want to call it. But he was the one. So he had to show his dominance on everyone around him. And that's what it turned into. And so he ended up doing that to animals, boys and girls. So this is at an early age too. So people listening, we're talking 14 and onward. He was doing these things. This is crazy.
I mean, in modern day, you could you could think of ways to try to reach out to that child and try to turn them around. But in that day and age, how do you turn a kid around like that?
Well, you see, that's what I mean by atmosphere. The community, that was not something the community was equipped to handle, and it didn't get involved. And you would never go into a household and do anything about that situation. Do you know what I mean? It just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Whereas today it would. You know, if someone reported that, you know, a kid was living at home with the family and the sisters and stuff, and the father was making them watch him have sex with their mother at ages 6 and teenagers and all these young kids, you know, the society, you know, our communication, you know, the government would step in, remove the kids. He would be in court. Like, it would be something that's just not acceptable. That's nothing that would have happened 100 years ago. They wouldn't cross the head of the household and the family. Nobody would do anything. If you did know, nobody would do anything. So
they put gasoline on the fire by drafting them into the army and giving them a set of skills.
Yeah, well, you know, it's good to have skills besides what he did have, you know. And that didn't go well, and he sort of got it into lighting fires too. That was the next thing. So that was another control thing. He started burning places and doing that, and he ended up in jail for burning down places and catching fires and stuff. So for arson, he actually would get charged and sent to prison for. But they weren't really long-term prison sentences or anything like that. They're just short. So
he ended up deserting the army, correct? But then he had a bit of an issue after deserting. I say a bit of an issue. I don't know if that's
being very, very kind.
That is being kind, isn't it?
Yeah.
He discovered, is it saying, it's not saying, I don't want to say he discovered a kink. That's a wrong way to put it, Alan. He discovered, and it's not discovering, he found out that he had a fantasy of wanting to kill large groups of people at one time. And that the fantasy was so pleasurable that he found out he could spontaneously ejaculate just thinking about it at that point.
Right.
That sets him off on his spree.
Yes. Right. And you know, that's the whole thing. You know, even lighting a building on fire and burning it, that would arouse him. He quite often, from trying to rape his sister onward, always had sexual problems with females. Of being able to really go to completion, so to speak. Quite often he would have to do it himself, like by masturbating. And he did have this whole thing with his parents caused a sexual issue with him. And I guess that's kind of obvious, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he was, you know, so anything that he discovered, that's a good word of yours. Anything that he discovered that would allow him to actually ejaculate, as you say, was pleasure, was good. So he started going toward that. Do you know what I mean? I guess it would be sort of like someone watching porn on the internet today, if that's what that takes for them to please themselves. It turned into his sort of porn, lighting buildings on fire or killing of people or stuff like that. And that's sort of why he was having sex with animals. Bestiality was because he was unable to perform quite often with a woman or a girl, depending on the age. And so he would go take it out on an animal, so to speak, because he could sort of perform better with an animal. So he was some kind of screwed up.
Yeah. In there, though, he manages to find one relationship where he does get married.
Yeah.
That was confusing. I don't know how he manages to stay normal long enough to to find a woman and function in a relationship?
Without speaking to the woman and without knowing personally, it's tough to determine. But I think with other cases, this is where I kind of have to go into a guessing mode. But with other cases of serial killers that have had wives or girlfriends, quite often they know nothing about it because the person's got to a point where they can have two fronts. They can have one person that's the lusting killer that goes out and creates this thing, and another person that's the father, husband, family man. And they're very good at keeping that at home and not bringing, the bad stuff there. Some of them can do it for years. Some of them can do it 20, 30 years, like what seems like a lifetime. While others, look at the BTK killer, right? I mean, you can have a totally normal life, as normal as you want it to be. Because you got to remember that people like this generally are sociopathic. And so they don't have a lot of emotional or, if any, feeling toward anything. So it's all just mimicking the behavior of emotion. So they create this, this situation that makes them look normal or society normal, So it's hard to say what goes on between two people in a relationship, I think is what I'm getting to.
Right. So where does he get the name the Vampire? How does the Vampire come in here?
Well, again, we're talking about times where people were scared of things like vampires, werewolves, and all of those things. And they really wanted to make it, I don't know if that's really right either. Really want it to make, but certainly that the idea of someone that's killing and raping people, we like to make it as headline-ish as possible. And we're talking like in the 20s and stuff like that. And so it's kind of one of those things that, we turned it into more than it is. It's just a really good name. He was really big at stabbing the victims and a lot of blood and removing the stomach or genitals and stuff like that, and choking. And he was a terrible killer. So to turn it into a rhetoric of a vampire, I think that's really more of what it is than
actual
anything because he wasn't actually going out and grabbing you and drinking your blood like a vampire would. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I say right. It's more about the blood and more about the way he behaved than what he as far as I can see.
Right. Yeah. I do want to talk about one man who did actually eat people, if we can, and that's Karl Denke, the forgotten cannibal. If we could talk about him real quick. He was in Prussia in 1860. Denke quit school, ran away from home. In his youth, he wanted to be a gardener. When he was 25 years old, he started his own gardening business. He's kind of an interesting story in that he doesn't typically look like your typical cannibal, I guess, if there's such a look. He was left with some money. He used it to buy himself some property. He began to farm his property, but he hated it. Quit and sold the land. How does he turn to start eating people?
Oh, he was hungry.
We all get hungry, Alan, but we generally pop a pizza in the oven or something. I mean, I realize in 1860 that's not but But in
Well,
Prussia,
they didn't have delivery back then. There was no Uber Eats. It's terrible. I sound so jaded. I guess I'm really kind of, I guess I take this with a grain of salt because you kind of have to, because, how else can you take it? I think probably wasn't it the axe fight or something that he had with his friend, started it. And then, what did he do? I think that, what did he? And I can barely remember. I know he had an axe fight with his friend, and then I know that when the police came and they searched the house, they found several pieces of human flesh and body parts and everything.
His last known victim was Vincent Oliver in 1924. Denke told Oliver that he would write him a letter of reference and would give him some money if he came to his house. The two men were sitting down at Denke's table, and he was writing a letter for Oliver when suddenly Denke grabbed a pickaxe and swung it at Oliver's head. Oliver quickly moved just in time and dodged the axe. The two fought, and Oliver was able to get a hold of the axe. He escaped from Denke's house, screaming something about a madman trying to kill him, and two police officers who were nearby came running, and Denke was then arrested.
Yeah. I know they found a huge amount of body parts. Like there was like 16 femurs, and 6 of them that were pairs and 2 that were just left femurs. So who knows where the right ones were. 15 medium-sized long bones, 4 pairs of elbows, 7 heads of radii, like forearms, 9 lower parts of the forearm, the arm, 8 lower parts of the elbow, 1 pair of upper shin bones, another pair of lower elbow, 1 pair of upper arms. He was hungry. Collarbones, shoulder blades, 8 heels.
So really, his friend was getting lured in for lunch.
Yeah, he was what's being served for dinner. 120 toes.
Oh,
So, what are they? 150 pieces of ribs. Okay, so they found a lot of parts and stuff. You see, in the stories like that too, right? You don't really know all the victims and what's going on here, right? You can find out about their lives and kind of where they come from, but you can't really find out much about that after the fact when you're talking over 100 years ago, to 100 years ago, like in that period. There's only so much, it's not like we could DNA and they could find out and who was missing, and it's really primitive times is what we compare to now. So just remember that next time you get invited for lunch.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I sound callous, don't I? I sound terrible.
You do sound callous. Yeah. I mean, you there's other cases in the book too, where Joachim Kroll is another one, talking about how he would how he'd kill his victims. He'd often follow them around for a while, and when they were in a place where nobody else was around, he'd approach them without saying a word. He'd grab his victim by the neck with both hands, strangle them until they were dead, and then he'd remove their clothing and then have intercourse with the body, and then, he'd finish over them. Yeah. That type of deal. And then he'd take them to the apartment and have them for lunch.
Well, the thing, it's really terrible, actually, but I guess they don't want to waste anything. I don't know. It's a really interesting scenario, what was going on and how many victims were that way and how many of them were eaten and consumed. And there must be a psychological reason why, more than just power, more than just that to want to eat your victims, in certain cultures, Alan, and I have to ask this because, in certain cultures, when you eat the heart of an enemy, it's to take his power, right? Right.
But there's none of this going on. It doesn't feel like it. It feels more like an act of aggression.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, the only problem is like for instance, the last one we talked about with all the body parts and stuff, the act of aggression is attacking and then killing the victim. But then the aggression usually ends then. Maybe it'll become sexual and then it ends. And then it's taking because once you've done all that and the heightened feelings are kind of past, to take the body or the victim to your home or to wherever, and then to take them apart and save certain parts and cut up the different pieces and stuff, that takes a lot of time. Like when if you've got a human body in your tub or on your basement floor, whatever the case was, and you're taking it apart piece by piece and cutting the bones and stuff, that's not easy work.
No.
Especially when we're talking 100 years ago or so, when you didn't have, let's say, a lot of electrical appliances or tools and stuff. It's not an easy task to do this and to do it to where you can do it how they did and start starting. So it became a thought out, long-term plan, and it took hours to do a lot of what they did. And so this is not, the anger isn't still there, or the power, or because you've already killed them or had sex with them. The aggression has ended then, and then you're still doing it for a matter of hours, sometimes days probably. So there's something more to this. And then to eat pieces of the victim too, is that consuming them, you take part of them into your soul and they become part of you. Is that you have to wonder what it is mentally,
Yeah. It's a place I can't fathom going to. I just can't. I don't know where that is. Right.
Yeah. It's really a tough thought out thing. So
yeah.
I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. I certainly don't have any fantasies like that. So I don't know.
No, I don't know. It's again, one of those strange places where you can get inside the mind of somebody like that. It's an interesting ride, but not a place you'd want to stay permanently, right? It's
No, nothing like that.
That's for sure.
Or you find yourself in a bad place.
Yeah, exactly. The book is a fascinating one for folks, and I encourage you to grab it. We have a link in the description of this program. It's called Murderous Minds Germany. It is part of the International Serial Killers Encyclopedia, Volume 1. There's 3 of them out there so far. We'll bring Alan back to talk about the other 2 here very, very soon. Alan R. Warren is our guest and the author of that book. Alan, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Always a pleasure talking good dining with you, Tim. Thanks.
Oh, God, you had to add the dining thing in there. I was going to eat lunch today, too. I guess I'm not going to be doing that, huh?
Yeah, lots of gravy.
And I was gonna have German food, so I could throw that out there too. So
gives a whole new meaning to sauerkraut. Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah. So much for that. I guess I'll just have PB&J today.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Well,
no meat
today. Not for me. With that, we'll bring in Jessica Freeberg. It's time now for us to lighten things up. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time again, the time you've all been looking forward to. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And with that, we need a co-hostess. And we bring in one of the best in the biz. That's right. She's intelligent, she's witty, she's funny. She's a trip hostess as well. We have one of those coming up very soon. In fact, we'll be drawing for a giveaway in just a matter of moments. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring her in right now. Jessica Freeberg. Hi, Jess.
Hey, yeah, I'm an event planner too.
Yes,
who knew?
Event planner. You got that in your resume now too. Look at that. Before we get to that, I do want to bring down the room for just a moment. I learned this afternoon, unfortunately, that Beer City Bruiser's brother Mike has passed away. So if we could just kind of get together as a family here, send out our best wishes and our condolences to Bruiser's family. You can reach him on social media. If you don't know how to reach out to him on social media, go to darknessradioshow.com. His socials are there. If you have the Darkness Radio app, his socials are there as well. The app for Apple. But by all means, over the next few days, he has gone to his family's home in Arizona. So please understand if he doesn't get back to you. If you try to reach out to him personally, he's not going to get back to you personally, as he's with family now. But you feel free to drop him a note and let him know you're thinking of him. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. So as we're taping here on Monday, he's just found out. So he's made arrangements to go home. So buddy, we're thinking about you. We love you, and our thoughts are with you. So there you go.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that again, then when something happens with our Darkness Radio family, it hurts all of us. So we anything you need, just let us know. So, okay, with that, we have a contest to draw for. Now, here's the deal. Last week, we said here was the deal. So Jessica and Ghost Stories Inc. were so happy to have a little Halloween treat for us. So the way this works is coming up November 14th through the 17th, Ghost Stories Inc. has a trip to the Palmer House Hotel coming up. It's one of their big events. It's one of the biggest of the fall. And so they have 2 tickets that they're drawing for, right, Jess?
Yes, we have 1 room that will be available for whomever wins the tickets to reserve. Once I draw the name, I will reach out to them personally and let them know that they've won. And I will let them know the super secret passcode so they can call in and make that reservation. I'll also reach out to the Palmer House and let them know to be expecting that call and to save that room for them. So, yeah, I'm excited. I have a little hat here to draw the name out of.
Oh, look at that. Fancy hat, too. So here's
the 1920s bowler hat.
All right. So just to clarify, they're responsible for paying for the room. They do get 2 free tickets to the event.
Correct.
So we're drawing for the 2 free tickets to the event. They get into the event for free. They do have to purchase the room at the Palmer House for the weekend. So with that, Jess, go ahead and draw.
All right.
It is a fancy hat, by the way. I'm not going to lie.
No, my daughter will be wearing it at the event on the Friday night dance.
There we go. Okay.
All right. We have Heather Peterson who won.
There you go. Heather Peterson is the big winner. And Heather and a person of her choosing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So Heather, congratulations. You are the winner of the big contest to come join us to Ghost Hunt up there with Ghost Stories Inc.
We're excited to ghost hunt with you.
Yeah, on the 14th to the 17th. So thanks for entering, and we will see you on the weekend of the 14th. So up at the Palmer House Hotel. That'll be fun.
And thanks to everyone who entered.
That's right. Thank you to everyone who entered. So we're looking forward to it. And again, folks, keep your eye on Darkness Radio Show events for more, or darknessradioshow.com and the events page for more events. As they happen. So there you go. Boy, have we got a lot of stories today, Jess. Lots of stories, lots of odd things that have happened in the news. So I think we should just jump into it, shall we?
Let's just dive in face first.
Well, this guy dove in fist first. So we'll just start with a pummeling, shall we?
Oh, let's do.
All right. A man allegedly pummeled a sleeping passenger in the face in a bloody, unprovoked attack on a United Airlines flight. I think we've stated this in the past before. United Airlines is probably my last choice when I'm flying. I know it's sorry, United, but it is. I don't think I've had a positive experience on United Airlines in quite some time.
At least you haven't been pummeled in the face.
Well, I can't state that either on a United flight. I've been pummeled by luggage in the face on a United Airlines flight. Yeah, but not anybody swinging it and hitting me, but just coming down off of out of the overhead bin.
Ouch.
Yeah. A man is accused of viciously attacking a sleeping passenger on a United Airlines flight Monday afternoon, leaving him bloody and bruised, according to federal authorities. The assault occurred on a flight from San Francisco International Airport in California to Dulles International Airport in Virginia, according to court documents. Authorities say that about 2 hours into the flight, this sounds like a guy, I hate to cast aspersions based on name here, Jess, but when you hear the name Everett Chad Nelson, does he sound like a guy who just punched people randomly?
He was born to punch people, Tim.
Yes, he was. He just sounds like when I hear Everett Chad Nelson, I want to sub his middle name Chad with Chode, and then I think, yeah, that's the guy who would be punching people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Everett Chad Nelson left his seat in 35F. That's right. He was sitting in the back of the plane and went to the bathroom at the front of the plane. Okay, now, isn't there a bathroom in the back of the plane?
There's always a bathroom in the back of the plane. Maybe this is where his problem began.
I think so. I think he thinks he belongs peeing with the privileged people. So
give me that first class bathroom.
That's right. He wants the first class pisser. So he decided he was going to walk up front. On his way back to his seat, Nelson allegedly stopped at seat 12F and without notice began physically attacking a sleeping male passenger by punching him repeatedly in the face and head until blood was drawn. That according to the court filing. The victim, who was not identified in the court documents, woke up screaming. I would too if I were bleeding. Yeah. You're just punching me at random. I might wake up and start swinging myself. Yeah. During the alleged 1-minute attack, blood splattered on Nelson's coat, the seat, the wall, and the window. How's that song go? From the windows to the walls?
To the sweat drops down.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. The victim had bruising on his eyes and a gash on his nose. He was treated by a doctor on the flight. Well, thank God there was a doctor there.
Well, good. Yeah.
You know what else was missing? A U.S. Marshal. That's what was missing.
Kidding.
Yeah, an air marshal.
Arrest that bastard.
Yeah. Authorities said a fellow passenger intervened and monitored Nelson at a seat near the front of the plane until it landed in Virginia. It took another passenger to calm this guy down.
Wow.
No other incidents occurred on the flight afterwards. Nelson had no visible injuries, according to the filing, and it does not appear that the victim struck him in self-defense, unfortunately. United Airlines thanked customers and crew members for quickly restraining Nelson. The flight landed safely and was met by paramedics and local law enforcement, the airline said in a statement. Nelson was charged with 1 count of assault by beating, striking, and wounding. His attorney did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Thursday. Again, the things that get you on the way back from the bathroom. What was it about the guy sleeping that really pissed you off that bad?
Right. So random. What a strange thing to do. What a psycho.
Right? I don't know. And I mean, it's a 4-hour flight, right? From San Francisco to Virginia, probably 4.5 hours.
Yeah, probably so.
So, I mean, were you just cooped up for that long that you just couldn't take it?
I wonder if he'd been drinking.
He had to have been.
Yeah.
One too many of the little bottles of alcohol, and he just lost it.
Yeah. And you know, when you're in the air and the cabin pressure or whatever, it hits you like double time. So maybe he just doesn't know how to hold his liquor, and he's one of those guys that just gets into bar fights.
It could be. Yeah. He's
based on the name, I'm assuming.
Yeah. He's a little angry Everett, isn't he? Yeah. Angry Everett Chode.
Yeah.
There you go. This next story, Jess, was sent to me by one of our listeners. By the way, If you've got a story for us, you can send it in to me at tim@darknessradio.com. We go to Florida, of course, where we're going to mix a couple of our favorite topics here, Florida and killer clowns.
Oh, what a combo.
Yeah. We go to a Florida killer clown cold case. Say that 10 times fast. A woman who murdered her romantic rival in costume is released from prison. I want you to just imagine this lovely face in a clown costume.
I remember this case.
You remember this case?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
It's a wild one.
She's out. So, you know.
No, thank you.
If you'd
Put
like,
her back.
If you'd like to arrange a party with her, I'm sure she's available for hire. A 1990 killer clown cold case turned plea deal has come to a close as the Florida woman who pleaded guilty was released from prison on Saturday. 61-year-old Sheila Keene Warren was released from prison just 18 months following her guilty plea to the second-degree murder of Marlene Warren while dressed as a clown delivering carnations and balloons. Keene Warren was arrested in 2017 and later convicted of shooting Marlene to death more than 30 years ago in Wellington, Florida. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison in 2023, with credit for the 2,000-plus days she had already spent behind bars. Despite her plea deal, she has maintained her innocence. We are absolutely thrilled that Ms. Keene Warren has been released from prison and is returning to her family. Greg Rosenfeld, who is Keene Warren's lawyer, told the Associated Press, as we've stated from the beginning, she did not commit this crime. Wouldn't you have had to have quite a bit of evidence in order to get her convicted?
I'm pretty sure she did it.
I'm pretty sure, too. She had been a suspect from the beginning of this case, but the investigators' lack of evidence made it hard for prosecutors to charge her. Retested DNA evidence in 2014 allowed them to connect her to the crime scene. So maybe it was a little errant of the lawyer to say she didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
She did it.
The victim's son, Joseph Ahrens, and friends were home at the time of the shooting and claim a person dressed as a clown delivered the balloons and flowers before shooting Marlene in the face. Keene Warren went on to marry the husband of her victim, Michael Warren, whom she worked for. Witnesses believe that the two were having an affair at the time of Marlene's murder, though they both denied it. Michael was initially a suspect, but he was never convicted. What really sealed the deal there, Jess, was when she showed up at a porn video with him dressed as a clown. Just saying. I mean, it's kind of odd. Just saying, kind of odd.
Which a coincidence.
Just a coincidence. By the way, I've gotten a few emails from people. I'm taking a sidebar here.
Yeah.
Warning me about, this Peter the Squirrel thing has come up. I don't know if you've heard about the Peter the Squirrel thing.
No, who's Peter?
Who's Peter? Oh, you don't know about this?
Is he your squirrel? Is he the one that's like throwing plates and stuff?
No. Okay, Jess, we have to get into this story here. You want to talk about, you talk about dumb crimes, stupid criminals. This is a dumb prosecution. Okay, if you've ever heard of one. Peter the Squirrel. This case is absolutely amazingly nuts, and I don't mean that to be a joke, folks. But I first saw this on Friday on TMZ. I'm sorry, not Peter, not Peter, but Peanut the Squirrel. Peanut the Squirrel.
Okay.
There's a man by the name of Mark Longo who runs. Why did I say Peter? I meant Peanut. Probably because I'm thinking of serial killer from when I was interviewing. I'm thinking of Peter from. Forget it. I don't. My brain.
It all blends together when you're doing so many different things.
My brain is toast today. So Peanut the Squirrel. Mark Longo. Well, actually, I'll read you the story. So okay. There's a twist in this story. Peanut the Squirrel is a trained, tame squirrel that Mark Longo has owned for the better part of, I want to say it's like 18 years. And he's become an icon of sorts for this rescue that Mark owns on his property. And he has many different animals. He runs his own animal rescue on his property. He's got like acres and acres of property. And he and his wife run this rescue. He also has a raccoon, Fred the raccoon, that he uses. And what they do is they have like sick kids that come out to his rescue, and they take pictures with Peanut, and he has different people come out to the rescue, and they take, they do like Make-A-Wish kids and things like that. Well, Peanut also is a viral star on TikTok. And I'll show you the cutest picture you'll ever see of Peanut here. You're going to absolutely melt when you see this. Here's a picture of Peanut the squirrel right here.
Oh, Peanut. I love him.
Right? So
He's got a little cowboy hat on.
A little cowboy hat on. And there's viral videos of Mark with Peanut. Here's another picture of Mark and Peanut right here.
They look so happy.
Yeah, and there's videos of Mark, walking around the house and doing things, and Peanut is running up and down his shoulders and running around the house.
Don't tell me Peanut rips his face off or something terrible.
No. Okay, so what happens is, and essentially, here's what happened. Now, I'm trying to get to the original story because I want to tell it in the order of sequence, because there's been some developments since Friday. Essentially, Mark's house was raided by the government. Okay? In this raid, Mark and his wife were meant to sit for 5.5 hours, which is unheard of. And they were raided by, I believe they're in the state of New York. And I'm trying to find the entire story here to get you all the details. Initially, the way it washed out here, and here the way it washes out here, and I'm not doing a very good job of describing it, but I'm trying to pull up the right story here so that you can get, here it is. Okay, so Mark Longo, who called Peanut the squirrel his pet for the past 7 years, described the New York essentially took Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon and confiscated them when they raided the house. And they made Mark and his wife sit for 5.5 hours. They got not a restraining order, but they got a search warrant.
Okay.
They weren't clear as to why they got this search warrant at the time. They raided the house, and it was the Department of Conservation, or Department of Environmental Conservation, and I believe it's Chemung County Department of Health that got the search warrant. They went in for 5.5 hours, and they were asking questions like, where are the cameras? Things like that. And do you have any cameras? Okay. They had really weird questions. But they confiscated the squirrel. They confiscated the raccoon. They left with both of them. Over the weekend, they found out, or actually it was on Friday they found out, in front of TMZ. TMZ had actually found out the information they hadn't found out. They found out live on air, both Mark and his wife, that they had euthanized both Peanut and Fred.
No.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
They claim that they euthanized Peanut and Fred, or just Peanut. Fred, I think, is still alive, because they claimed that Peanut had bit one of the workers. Now, Mark had said today, look at my hands. I have bite marks from both Peanut and Fred all over the place. They don't have rabies.
Right.
So, and they said,
so terrible.
and they said, you know, show me the worker, have the worker come forward and tell me which worker was bit. And there was, I'm trying to remember what the quote was from the worker in the state of New York. The state of New York worker was like, I don't understand what all the fuss is over a squirrel, I think is what the quote was today. I know it was a pretty upsetting deal, but I've had a few people say, you better watch what you say about your chipmunks on the air because they might come after you. There's more to the story, folks. So I wanted to quantify what that is here on the air. But here's the entire story behind Peanut the squirrel. So Mark Longo, who's called Peanut the squirrel his pet for the past 7 years, described the New York decision to seize and euthanize the wild animal turned social media star a disgrace. He said, what happened today and what transpired throughout the week has been nothing short of a tragedy and disgrace to the New York state, Longo told News Nation host Chris Cuomo over the weekend. He said, we used resources from the state to kill a squirrel and raccoon and raid my house as if I was a drug dealer. We have resources to kill a raccoon and a squirrel, but we can't fix the major bridges down the street. I'm appalled. Now, on November 1st, Peanut the squirrel, who's a social media star, with now more than 692,000 Instagram followers, the account gained more followers after this last week's events, was euthanized to test for rabies, according to a statement from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and Chemung County Department of Health. The statement also said a person involved in the confiscation investigation was bitten by Peanut. 2 days before, the New York Department of Environmental Conservation confiscated Peanut from his home in Pine City, New York. The seizure occurred due to multiple reports from the public about the potential unsafe housing of wildlife that could carry rabies and illegal keeping of wildlife as pets. That, according to the department, a raccoon known as Fred was also seized from Longo's home and euthanized. Over the weekend, Longo has shared several posts on Peanut's Instagram account, including interviews with news stations, fan art tributes, and old videos of the pet. We did not hear from the DEC. We didn't even get a statement from the DEC. We heard it from another news station that they killed Peanut, Longo told News Nation's Cuomo. In response to Peanut's seizure, a GoFundMe campaign was created. Initially, the GoFundMe served as a means for fans to help fund legal fees that may accumulate to get Peanut back home. But over the weekend, the fundraiser's goal has changed to honor Peanut, with funding Peanut's Freedom Farm Animal Sanctuary, which is a nonprofit dedicated to helping neglected animals. Now, as of Monday morning, the GoFundMe had raised $162,955. So what was the result of Peanut's rabies test? Well, the results from Peanut's rabies tests have not been shared. USA Today contacted the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and Chemung County's Department of Health for an update on Monday morning, but they haven't heard back. Neither has TMZ. In fact, TMZ said they've been hammering their phones for days and hadn't gotten a response. Now, the update from TMZ today, when they contacted Mark, was this. They kept asking about cameras when they raided the home. They wanted to know where the cameras were. There's another side to this, folks, and that's this. Mark and his wife also have an OnlyFans page. So they think that this has something to do with the OnlyFans page. And there might have been, because there were kids that were coming to the house, they want to try to tie this into inappropriateness around children.
Okay, so it wasn't an OnlyFans page revolving around the squirrel.
Right. They think, and it says here, according to the TMZ article, Mark says authorities asked him if he had any cameras in the house. A strange question to ask if they were only there because he broke the law by harboring two undomesticated animals in Peanut and Fred the raccoon. Instead, Mark believes someone who had an issue with him shooting porn with his wife and separately babysitting some of their neighbors' kids complained about him to authorities, leading to last week's raid. So they think that maybe they did some inappropriate things around children.
Okay.
So that's where this comes in. This doesn't have anything to do with the animals.
Right. So just keep off an Only's page or Only's fans. Don't start an account to do weird things, Tim, and you're safe.
Now, Mark did say in the interview with TMZ, I won't start an OnlyFans around the chipmunks. So there you go.
I'm like, oh, he's not going to respond to that. He must already have one.
I think Indy has one out in the garage. I'm not sure. Now, Mark's theory is that officials use the animals as a way to get into his home and dig up dirt on his porn biz.
Sure. That makes the most sense to me.
And Mark said how he makes money for the animal sanctuary is none of the government's business.
I would agree with that.
So Mark says folks who think he's trying to capitalize on this moment right now and promote his OnlyFans have it all wrong. He didn't even mention the OnlyFans until today. There was no mention of the OnlyFans up until today.
Right.
In fact, it was all about the animal sanctuary and Peanut and the fact that they had done wrong by Peanut and Fred, the raccoon, which the OnlyFans page had only come out today, which I'll give him credit for that. But he had kept it the subject on the animals until today. But it does make sense when you start thinking about it. I mean, it's all got to come out in the wash eventually, why they would be asking about cameras. I mean, the only other reason would be because you're making TikTok videos, right? Or you're making other videos.
Right.
And he had to fess up as to why the government might be in there looking for other things other than just these animals.
Right. He probably didn't want everyone to know about his OnlyFans page. You know, sometimes you have your side hustle that you do, and he probably has plenty of followers. He doesn't need to shout it out to mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, and all of the neighborhood people.
Right. Right. So
that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So there's a reason why Peanut and Fred were confiscated. That I think they were a side charge or a side consequence of the health department was sent out as a reason, quote unquote, to get into the house to see if anything else was going on. It was just a reason. It wasn't the main reason. It was just a reason to see if anything else was going on there. So there you go. So to the people who are concerned that maybe the Minnesota Health Department's coming in to take a look at the chipmunks. First of all, the chipmunks are wild animals. I don't keep them in my house.
No.
They're wild animals. They're free. They live outside.
You just enjoy them from the comfort of your front porch.
That's right. And so they don't live in my house. That's number one. Two, nobody has an OnlyFans here.
Speak for yourself.
Well, okay.
Just kidding. I don't.
Oh, okay. Oh, you don't?
Don't get excited.
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, darn it. But yeah. So there's nothing like that going on. So there you go. Although I'm getting to the point where I may need to start one.
Just show your feet. So many people have a kink about feet, and it's just, their feet.
Do you think anybody has a weird Charcot foot fetish that I could make some money on?
Well, someone might. You should try.
Yeah. Like I don't know, a busted up foot. Somebody would kind of get off.
You
on
might
that
hold
deal.
the market on that page.
I might. Yeah. I might have to go for that deal.
People like weird things, Tim.
Anywho, so there you go. So that's that deal. So yeah. So we're just clarifying that. Yeah, there's other things going on in that deal. So, anywho, let's move on. A New York City passenger who pepper sprayed a Muslim Uber driver has now been fired from her PR job and is denying that it was a hate crime all along.
Well, what was her excuse, I wonder?
I just know denial ain't a river in Egypt. Let's find out. The Uber passenger charged with a hate crime for pepper spraying a Muslim driver in Manhattan is a former sorority girl, go figure, who was fired from her PR job over the shocking incident. Manhattan College graduate Jennifer Gilboa, who is 23 years old. She's young. God love her.
Oh, just got done with the sorority life.
That's right.
I guess.
She's barely left the life. Had just started a promising career at a New York public relations firm when she was caught on a dash cam springing forward to spray her rideshare driver in July, horrifying the pal who was with her. So she had somebody with her at the time and just decided to go rogue.
Wow.
Yeah. Her employer, D. Pagan Communications in Melville, fired her over the shocking incident. Agency president Deborah Pagan confirmed to PR Weekly that Gilboa had left the firm without saying when she left. Probably shortly after the video came out, is my guess. Yeah.
About 1 hour later.
About an hour later, yes. We are aware of the actions of this former employee, and we don't condone this behavior. The company, which specializes in PR for tech companies, said on X in August. I have a picture of our pretty princess here, too. Let me pull this up for you. Let's see here if the ad will go away. Let's see if I can get the ad to go away real quick. Here we go. I can't get that drop-down ad to disappear. How do I do that?
You're going to have to buy whatever it is, Tim.
I guess, right? Here's a picture of her right here.
Okay, well, she looks cute and happy in that picture, but she's not so happy now.
Doesn't she? She kind of, I always hate this this term, but doesn't she scream white privilege?
I mean, probably so, yes.
Yeah, kind of like, things are good at the country
club.
Does it
say what provoked it? Like, it was unprovoked. She's just like,
ooh, here's
a spray this guy in the face.
Here's a good still picture of the incident. Again, I hate these drop-down ads that.
I just don't get the reasoning. The man just got you where you needed to go. Give him a tip, not
right
poison in his eyes.
Well, I don't even think they got that far. Let's see here. Again, I got to get this thing out of my way. That's what she said. Hello. Let's see if I can get the.
It just keeps popping up.
I know, that's what she said too. Look at that. Tell me
she looks so mean.
She does, doesn't she? That's not the country club face we were looking for.
Wow, she has the most evil scowl on her face.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Huh? Yeah, she kind of looks like she doesn't look like she's too happy there, does she? Yeah.
Not at all.
Not at all. Let's see here. Let's see what exactly caused this whole rigmarole, this whole deal, this whole melee. Because she did not look happy. Gilboa's attorney argued that the case could not be or should not be handled as a hate crime and that a full review of the evidence would prove that. Ms. Gilboa was not motivated by race, religion, national origin, or any other discriminatory factor. Michael J. Alber said in a statement, this case needs to be looked at with all surrounding circumstances, which include assessing all of the evidence and lack of evidence, he added. We look forward to working with the district attorney's office to fully vet all the facts in the proper forum, which does not embellish or exaggerate the claims, especially where the integrity and credibility of the claims can properly be tested. Now, Gilboa is a native of Northbridge, Massachusetts. Buffy. And she earned a bachelor's degree in public relations, advertising, and applied communications at the Bronx University, where she also served as the VP social chair of her sorority, which is Sigma Delta Tau, that according to her online profile. Glitzy photos posted to the Manhattan College's chapter's social media page show her and her sisters dressing up for formals and celebrating scholarships. Gilboa was indicted in New York State Supreme Court on 2 counts of assault as a hate crime and aggravated harassment for the Upper East Side attack, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office announced on Tuesday. Gilboa was riding in the back seat with the other woman at around 12:15 a.m. when suddenly she sprayed the noxious substance in the 45-year-old driver's eyes. That, according to the viral clip circulating online, there's no Crips involved here, I assure you. The driver, Shohei Mahmood, later claimed that Gilbo launched her assault simply because of his skin color. He said he hadn't spoken at all to the woman when he picked them up near Lexington Avenue and East 66th Street in Midtown. That's a pretty harmless area of Midtown, I'll tell you that. Her friend, she is yelling, Jen, what the are you doing? What's going on? Mahmood told the Post days after the attack, her friend is asking, why did you do that? And she said, he's brown.
What? No. She did? Oh, she deserves everything she has coming to her. That she is an idiot.
Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said Gilbo attacked the driver when he began praying in Arabic just as he approached a red light.
Stop. He's just like putting protection on you. Come on.
The father of three jumped out of the car thinking the women were trying to rob him in his vehicle. When he hopped back inside the car and started to roll, she maced him again.
Oh my gosh. I'm shocked.
Let the guy say a silent prayer. What's the harm?
Yeah, what? How offensive is a prayer? It's not. Leave him alone.
Cops arrested Gilbo at the scene, but initially only gave her a desk ticket.
Oh, give me a break. If he would have done that to her, he would have been put in the cuffs.
Oh, would have been a mess. She
Yeah, this one kind of makes me a little bit mad.
If he would have did it to her, they would have buried him under the jail.
Yeah.
Right?
That's ridiculous.
Yikes. So that's the name of that tune. Poor guy.
Oh, man.
Maced for saying a small prayer. And he got to the stoplight. First, he just got maced for being brown, but then he said a small prayer, and then he got a second helping.
I don't even have words. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Buffy got offended. 66th in Midtown is like nothing. I mean, you got to go another 30 blocks north, but if she would have went 30 blocks north, she would have been in shock.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. All right. You thought that was bad. Our next story here, Jess, is going to make you cringe. We're going to go overseas for the next one. A callous banker who stole 18,000 pounds from a customer with dementia is ordered to pay back just £1. That's it. Stole 18,000, only has to pay back one.
I don't math very often, but that doesn't seem to add up in my brain.
Just think $18,000 only has to pay back one.
Yeah, why? What's the story here? Well,
Sheriff Gregor Murray said this appears to be a case where any recoverable amount appears to be a nominal sum. That doesn't seem right. A crooked banker who swindled 18,000 pounds from a customer with dementia has been ordered to pay back just £1 under proceeds of crime legislation. Stephen Barr was jailed for 13 months for deliberately targeting the 81-year-old because of his condition and cleaning out his bank account to clear his own debts. The 38-year-old was working as a link manager for the Bank of Scotland when he handpicked Douglas Crumley, who has since died, to steal from. Sheriff Gregor Murray said this appears to be a case where any recoverable amount appears to be a nominal sum. Fiscal dispute Andrew Harding told Dundee Sheriff Court the Crown is seeking a nominal amount of £1, so less than $1 here in the States.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Sheriff Murray granted the motion and gave Barr 28 days to come up with the less than $1. He said clearly the benefit is the amount stated in the joint minute, but the available amount can only be a nominal sum. The court was previously told that Barr had a stellar 13-year career in banking before fiddling thousands of pounds from Mr. Crumley's savings. Sheriff Paul Brown told him this is a serious matter. It is so serious there is no alternative to a custodial sentence. Solicitor Gary Fowlis, defending, said he understands this was a significant breach of trust. He does not try to underplay matters in it anyways. He accepts responsibility. He definitely has to be punished, but he might be extremely vulnerable in a custodial setting. He has a desire to reimburse the bank. The bank reimbursed the family of the complainer in full. He was in difficult circumstances and could not resist the temptation put before him. This was against a backdrop of a stellar career in the banking industry. He resigned his position, but would have been sacked anyways. It's something he will have to live for with the rest of his life. He tells me he thinks about it every day. A lot of people he called friends previously have disowned him. He has a very small group of friends. The court was told Barr had previously worked as a personal banking advisor and was employed as a link bank manager in the city's Fairmuir branch at the time of the offense. Barr, who started working for the Bank of Scotland in 2005, used his brother's nationwide bank account to obtain thousands of pounds from the pensioner. Each staff member was given a login using a unique file number, and all activity using that file number is logged on the bank's computer system. Mr. Crumley became a customer in 2015 and used a current account for his pension income and general living costs with no third-party access to his accounts. Fiscal Deputy Joanne Ritchie said in January of 2018, the accused's brother was approached by the accused, who asked him if he could use one of his bank accounts. The accused alluded to being in considerable debt. His brother did not see this as unusual, as he had approached him for loans and money many times before. He advised the accused that he had a nationwide account that he was not using. Between March and April of 2018, Mr. Crumley, who is in the early stages of dementia, spoke with Barr about his financial affairs. Barr added notes to Mr. Crumley's file, stating that the vulnerable customer was becoming increasingly confused with his accounts. Concerns were first raised in May of 2018 when investigators noticed a number of faster payments being made by Barr from one of Mr. Crumley's accounts. Ms. Ritchie said the staff file number used to make these payments was the same account the accused received his salary into. Douglas Crumley did not report these transactions as fraudulent. However, group investigators at Lloyd's Banking Group, which is Bank of Scotland's parent company, were aware that he was elderly and vulnerable and were concerned. 5 payments totaling £10,550 were clocked as being suspicious. The court was told the nationwide account was only 5 pence in credit before the first payment of £1,000 was made. This was immediately withdrawn in cash. A number of ATM withdrawals were noted during an audit of Mr. Crumley's accounts, which were not in line with his spending habits. The withdrawals totaled £7,383 and took place at various machines in Dundee and Aberdeen. A senior investigator established Barr withdrew or transferred £17,939 of Mr. Crumley's money between March 8th and May 15th of 2018. Ms. Ritchie said Barr was interviewed internally by bank investigators and chose to be unaccompanied. The accused stated that he was in substantial debt owing to a breakup with an ex-partner, which amounted to over £30,000. He advised he had defaulted on some of the debts, but had not discussed these issues with his manager due to being embarrassed. The accused stated Mr. Crumley was a regular customer of his, and he was aware he had dementia. He later stated deliberately that he had targeted Mr. Crumley due to his vulnerability. He said he felt awful and made mention of taking his own life. But yet he didn't.
No.
He just took advantage.
But he did take a lot of money from an older man.
Yes, he did. He just took advantage of Mr. Crumley instead of doing the right thing.
I'm sure he does feel bad, but yeah.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. He still did the crime. All right, Jess, I know From time to time, we all do internet searches, and you always think to yourself, is anybody really watching me as I do my internet searches? If I search,
I hope not.
right? I mean, as an author, you've had to probably search some pretty weird shit, right?
I have searched the strangest of things.
Yeah. Well, it turns out there's a woman issuing a warning after police turned up at her house because she Googled 4 words.
What are they?
No, I'm about to tell you.
I'm scared.
A woman has revealed the 4 words you should avoid Googling to ensure the police do not pay an unexpected visit to your house. Michelle Catalano and her husband from Long Island, New York, were browsing for everyday household items back in 2013 when they unexpectedly ran into trouble. Recounting the events following the incident, she wrote in her blog at the time, Googling of certain things was creating a perfect storm of terrorism profiling. Keep in mind, this is 2013 now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Michelle, a freelance writer, wanted to order herself a pressure cooker while her husband was looking to purchase a new rucksack. Perfect storm here. This led to them carrying out separate searches online for the items they both wanted, an exercise that would not normally cause alarm in the police force. However, her husband typed in keywords for both items from his work computer 2 days later, just prior to quitting his job. IT staff flagged the searches, which his former employee reported it to the local Suffolk County Police Department. This was brought up by staff due to the actions of the people allegedly responsible for the Boston Marathon bombings earlier that year.
Right.
Pressure cooker, rucksack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Red flag.
Oops.
Yeah. The incident, which took place during the annual Boston Marathon on April 15th, 2013, saw 2 individuals plant homemade pressure cooker bombs that detonated near the finish line of the race, 14 seconds and 210 yards apart. 3 people were killed and hundreds injured during the attack, including 17 who lost their limbs. Following the couple's unintentional internet search, several black SUVs pulled up at the couple's house to ensure that they were not a terrorist threat, as would be expected. So if you don't want police to show up at your door, don't search the 4 words pressure cooker bomb along with the words backpack.
Duly noted.
There you go. That's just a little thing from Michelle to you. Michelle described the surreal experience on her blog, saying that her husband saw 3 black SUVs in front of her house, 2 at the curb in front, 1 pulled up behind my husband's Jeep in the driveway, as if to block him from leaving. Following the security concern, Suffolk County Police released a statement which read, Suffolk County Criminal Intelligence detectives received a tip from Bayshore-based computer company regarding suspicious computer searches conducted by a recently released employee. Michelle wrote on her blog, mostly I feel a great sense of anxiety. This is where we are at, where you have no expectation of privacy. We're trying to learn how to cook some lentils could possibly land you on a watch list. She jokingly added, all I know is if I'm going to buy a pressure cooker in the near future, I'm not doing it online. I'm scared and not of the right things.
Yeah, that is kind of scary.
A little bit, just a little bit, you know?
I mean, I often joke if my husband ever goes missing, there's no way when they look at my laptop, they're going to not think I did something terrible to it.
Yeah.
Because of all the stuff I search for, like trying to figure out like how my, bad person's going to kill someone in my story. Yeah. And then, get rid of the body.
Right. I mean, you almost have to just say, I'm an author. Right.
Look at my books.
Right. Here are my books.
They're all messed up.
Look at my Amazon page, please. Well, it's time now for our Not Safe for Work category here on the big program. Again, if you have a boss in the room, send him to his office. If you have kids in the room, send them to your closet, whatever you're doing. And of course, put earbuds into everybody else because it's about to get a little naughty in here. So we're going to do that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to start with a not so happy story having to do with, and of course, if it's a not so happy story, of course, we're going to Florida. We're going to Tallahassee, Florida. A bondsman is arrested for targeting women in jail for human trafficking.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's next level dirtbag.
Yeah, it is. We go to Tallahassee, Florida, where a bail bondsman has been charged with alleged human trafficking and racketeering. That, according to Attorney General Ashley Moody's office. The Attorney General's office said an investigation by the Metropolitan Bureau of Investigations revealed that Russell Bruce Moncrief, who worked as a bondsman in Central Florida, targeted female inmates in Orange County Jail on prostitution and or drug charges, offering them bond in exchange for sex. Moncrief owns Moncrief Bail Bonds, which operates in multiple Florida counties. He allegedly would bond female inmates out in exchange for sex, either with himself or someone else. Moncrief allegedly also sold women that he bonded out to other people for financial gain, threatening to revoke the victim's bond if they didn't cooperate. Sounds like a nice guy.
No.
The defendant used his position as a bail bondsman to prey on women in the criminal justice system, Attorney General Ashley Moody said. After bailing his victims out of jail, he continued to use his power over them to sell the women for sex to others for his own financial gain. Working with MBI, we uncovered this sickening scheme and will prosecute the defendant on human trafficking and racketeering charges. Moncrief was arrested and is being held without bond. You know what's perfect justice here would be to bond him out, but make him have to do somebody for it, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds like justice to me.
That's right. He faces 3 counts of human trafficking for commercial sexual activity, 1 count of racketeering, and 1 count of unlawful use of a two-way communications device to facilitate the commission of a felony. If convicted, Moncrief faces up to 125 years in jail. Just seems like not enough time for me. So there you go.
I agree. They should put him in longer.
That's right. Put him in longer and make him face a lot of big men who want to put him in a wig and lipstick. Just saying.
That's justice. I agree. I like that.
That's justice, right? All right. We'll lighten it up here with this next story. What's better than Taco Bell at 3 a.m?
I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Naked Taco Bell at 3 a.m.
Taco Bell.
No.
Dangerous, Tim.
Well, it is a little bit. At least according to one guy in Oklahoma. Okay, this guy in Oklahoma probably shouldn't be doing naked Taco Bell. I'll let you decide. He's 61 years old.
Not that far away from us, Tim. Don't say it like that's really old.
An Oklahoma man was arrested Saturday night for going through a Taco Bell drive-thru naked. And he told police that all his clothes were in the wash and that he was unaware such nude motoring was illegal.
Every single stitch of clothing I own is currently in the wash.
Yeah. I just, sometimes you just don't have a thing to wear and you need a chalupa. Right? I mean, it's happened. Sometimes I need a Cholito. And I don't have a thing to wear.
Well, I guess you're going through the drive-thru naked then.
What? Where do you keep your wallet?
I don't want to know.
According to investigators, 61-year-old Christopher Sale placed an order through the drive-thru lane speaker at a Taco Bell, about 2 miles from his Oklahoma City residence. Well, at least he didn't go that far away from home. That's a good thing. When Sale subsequently pulled his 2021 Ford Ranger, I almost said Florida Ranger because it's seeming like a Florida story, to the drive-thru window to pay for his order, a 41-year-old female employee looked into the vehicle and immediately noticed that he was completely naked. That's probably the first thing you're going to notice.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to see. And then once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
That's right.
Damage is done.
Yeah. It's not like you can go, hey, look, Ambrosia's playing on the stereo. You can't do that, right? You can't totally miss the fact that he's naked, right? Despite Sale's nudity, the Taco Bell worker accepted payment from him and gave him his food. However, the employee told police that she believes Sale then sought to extend the encounter by asking her to add a taco to his already completed order. Wink. You know what I'm saying? I gave you a show. How about we go and you give me another taco? Huh?
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. The worker told cops that she had no desire to continue any contact with the nude Taco Bell patron and asked another employee to complete the contact.
Oh, she traumatized someone else.
Yeah. The second worker, a 26-year-old woman, provided Sale with the additional taco. She's like, I'll help him.
They're just serving this guy. That's great. I mean, that's great customer service.
Oh, yeah, with a smile even. She, too, told police of clearly and easily seeing Sale's genitals from her perch in the drive-thru window. Clearly and easily. After receiving the extra taco, Sale still did not leave and asked her for additional sauces.
Oh, my goodness. He was really enjoying this.
He wanted to show off.
Yeah.
By the way, she provided those extra sauces. She indulged him.
This is next level to the guy who runs around and like opens his coat, right? Like they get that little kick of adrenaline and excitement from that. And this guy is like, coat wide open, no coat at all.
He's like, by the way, mild sauce. She's like, you got it. Then she gives him mild sauce. And he's like, by the way, napkins. Right? And he just keeps upping the ante. Right?
Extra napkins because I have no clothes. Maybe I can fashion underpants out of them.
And by the way, the next part of the story was napkins. He asked for napkins.
No.
Yes. Sale then asked the Taco Bell worker for more napkins. He then pulled away in his pickup truck.
And was promptly pulled over by police, I hope.
No. Sale immediately returned to the order speaker and asked for even more sauces right after that.
Stop.
I know. Yeah, he just couldn't get enough.
Probably could have gotten away with his sick, whatever this is that he was doing if he would have just gone home after that.
Yep. Yeah, but you know what? They indulged him. Sometimes when you feed the wild animals, they come back.
That's true.
Yeah, see? Both of the female victims said they believe Sale wanted to continue the exposure incident. A cop concurred, writing that Sale came to this restaurant naked with the intent of allowing himself to be seen naked, especially his genital area. He's quite proud of his work. Just saying.
Oh, good for him, I guess.
A patrolman responding to a 911 call about a naked Taco Bell customer found Sale in the drive-thru lane. He was still completely nude. A white bath towel, a cop noted, was on the vehicle's passenger side floorboard. While being detained around 9 p.m., Sale reportedly claimed that, "I didn't know it was against the law to drive naked." That was a quote. He told
I didn't know it was against the law to show random people uninvited my genitals.
No. I just figured I was out cooling off, warm Oklahoma night. Just figured I'd get a little breeze, catch a breeze.
Oh, my.
He told the patrolman that his clothes were all in the washer and he got hungry.
Never mind that bathrobe you see on the floor.
Yeah. Never mind that towel. I just have that in case I spilled something on myself while I was eating. While en route to jail, Sale talked almost nonstop about how unfair the situation was, claiming that his genital area was covered with a green towel the entire time.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I don't think so, because the ladies testified that you were at full attention.
Pretty sure not. Yeah.
Charged with felony indecent exposure, Sale was booked into the Oklahoma County Jail. He was released yesterday from custody after posting $2,000 bond. Although, again, I argue, where was that $2,000?
I'm not touching that money.
Nope.
I know that.
Nope. I'm not either. I'm just wondering, did he finish his meal?
I know. Did he get to eat the taco?
Yeah,
It sounds delicious right now.
I know, right? Not only that, but how many extra tacos did he get?
What kind of sauces did he get? Hot? Mild?
Yeah. And does that trick really work? Because if it does, I'm going to Taco Bell after this taping.
Keep your clothes on, Tim.
Oh, I don't know about that, Jess. If you get free tacos for that.
Well, I mean, you'll get a free bed for the night.
That's true. You get a free stay.
Yeah, you get a free stay away from home.
That's only if you go back around in the drive-thru. If you just go real quick.
Let's not test it out. I mean, I will come visit you in prison.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that.
But I don't want to see you there. Not for this anyway.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. Our next story has to do with an Ohio man who might have taken hypnotism a little far. You know, occasionally, Jess, I get emails from hypnotists that want to be on the show.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, is it the people who want to be on the show, do they do hypnotism to truly help people, or are they like this guy? are they kind of creepy sex perverts? So, you know, is it one or the other, right? 6 of one, half dozen of the other. An attorney probed for hypnotizing female clients is the headline here. An Ohio lawyer is under a criminal investigation for hypnotizing a female client during meetings and directing her to engage in a series of sexual activities while in a trance and under his control, police report. The probe of 57-year-old Michael Fine was detailed yesterday in an emergency court motion filed by the Lorain County Bar Association, which is seeking an immediate suspension of the lawyer who has been practicing for more than 30 years. According to the court records, a second woman recently told police that she believes that Fine sought to hypnotize her during meetings in his office, where the pair discussed the woman's divorce case. As detained in an affidavit prepared by an investigator with the Lorain County prosecutor, Jane Doe hired Fine last year to represent her in a child custody matter. The woman recently contacted cops to report that she had strange memories and feelings after a series of meetings with Fine that occurred in his office and in a conference room at the county courthouse. She would be unable to recall substantial portions of the meeting, and afterwards, she would realize that her clothes and bra were out of place and moved, and let's just say that her privates were wet.
My.
Yeah.
Yikes.
After being told by cops that more definite evidence was needed, I don't know what more definite evidence you need, the woman recorded her next 2 telephone conversations with Fine and provided the tapes to police. As described by Thomas, one of the October recordings begins with a discussion of the woman's court case. But when Fine learns she is alone, he places her in a trance. What follows, Thomas noted, is of an explicit sexual nature wherein he induces her into multiple orgasms. The Bar Association motion charges that Fine used code words to induce Jane Doe to enter a trance-like state. While his client was hypnotized, Fine told her that she was being made love to by the world's greatest lover and that he was her teacher. That's in quotes. The attorney also assured Jane Doe that she will appear normal and only remember their discussions regarding legal matters.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, what wasted orgasms? She can't even remember them.
Right?
What was the point?
Right? Wouldn't you want to include something that would make you want to remember that he gave them to you?
That's like a weird kind of power. I mean, that's what rape is. It's just power. So
right.
That's a weird kind of rape.
It is, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah. It is. It's a power and control thing.
What a pervert.
Yeah. An October 21st phone call followed a similar script, with Fine inducing Jane Doe into a trance after a short conversation about her case. During the call, Thomas reported, Fine told the woman he would cause her horniness and arousal and excitement and a life-changing experience. The Bar Association complaint adds Fine told the woman that their encounters were a secret and no one's going to know, right? Fine, who directed the woman to bring a vibrator to their next office meeting, ended the call by saying, "You'll only recollect what we're talking about, your case, until we see each other tomorrow. Do you understand?" Armed with the audio recordings, criminal investigators fitted Jane Doe with audio and video recording devices in advance of a November 7th meeting in Fine's office. As agents monitored the sting operation, Fine hypnotized Jane Doe and directed her to sit on a couch. Fine begins sexual dialogue, explaining sexual acts that he will do for her. Thomas reported. Cops busted into the room as Fine was seated next to the woman, holding and massages her hand and rubs her shoulders. That's the description in the report. As recounted in the Bar Association motion, Fine told the woman that you will insist to me that I touch you in any way that brings you pleasure, and that you are free to touch yourself, to play with yourself, to get yourself off, have every experience that you so crave and desire. The lawyer also told Jane Doe that you are going to demand that I touch you and you touch me. Do you understand?
Yikes.
So this is all very... See, I told you that hypnotists are kind of crazy sex perverts.
I mean, this one definitely is.
Right? State investigators provided Bar Association officials with copies of telephone recordings made by Jane Doe and a DVD of her November 7th office meeting with Fine. A second female client, identified in court filings as Jane Doe 2, has alleged that Fine was attempting to hypnotize her during meetings in his office. The woman who hired Fine in September to represent her in a divorce action told bar officials that he repeatedly discussed relaxation and meditation techniques with her. During one meeting, Jane Doe 2 recalled Fine sat beside her and touched her fingers, forearm, and forehead. He asked her if her arms felt weightless and directed her to place her fingertips together and imagine two green dots coming together. Fine then told her to focus on his voice while he counted down from 10, saying that he would or she would experience a wave of relaxation that would cause her to leave her eyes feeling heavy. He added that she would think of a happy place, the sounds, the smell, etc. The woman reported that in her after-hours meetings with Fine, he would comment on her looks and physical appearance and ask about the nature of her sexual activity with her husband, including whether they had rough sex, etc. Jane Doe 2 added that she felt the loss of time during her meetings, as she cannot recall how much time passed during the meetings for what she remembers discussing. After recently learning that Fine no longer worked at his law firm, Jane Doe 2 told one of Fine's former partners that she felt as though she might have been hypnotized. The attorney recommended that she contact the local prosecutor's office, where she subsequently met with investigator Thomas. Jane Doe 2 told Bar Association officials that she felt creepy and disgusted by Fine's conduct and was sick that he picked her out after she was so upset and distraught about her marital situation when she went to him. In seeking Fine's immediate suspension, the Lorraine Bar Association argues in its Ohio Supreme Court that the attorney poses a substantial threat of serious harm to the public. Fine is married to a court reporter and is the father of 2 daughters, of all things.
Wow, that's terrible.
And I'm sorry, but when I look at a picture of him, you tell me who you think he looks like.
Dr. Phil?
Yes! The minute I looked at him, I went, he looks like Dr. Phil.
He does. It's kind of uncanny.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't it?
Have you ever been hypnotized?
I have a hard time being hypnotized. I don't.
Me too.
I can't be hypnotized very easily.
I can't. I went up and I tried to participate once.
Yeah.
And they ended up sending me back down. I think my brain is just always going. It must be an ADHD thing because I'm always thinking about like, should I leave my iron on? I'm hungry. I think the burrito sounds yummy. I want to take my dog would look cute in a tutu. Like I can't focus long enough for them to actually to that point of hypnotism.
It's also a control thing.
Yeah. I do have control issues. Yeah.
If you
have to be in control of things.
Yep. It's also a thing about submitting control. If in trust, if you don't trust someone completely, you can't be hypnotized. So, it has to do with all three of those issues. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So if you don't completely trust someone, like on first meeting, if you don't feel comfortable with them, you won't be hypnotized. And I have a hard time. Of course, I've got a skeptical nature. So if someone says to me, "Oh, just relax," nope. What is it you want from me? Right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing I think.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. And if you're going to put me in a vulnerable state, no, it's not going to work.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah. So, I can't be hypnotized. It's pretty hard. Now, self-hypnosis I can do because I can trust myself.
Okay.
But
have you tried that before?
See, here's my problem with self-hypnosis is I hit a wall. I hit a wall where and no one can explain it to me as to why. I think I have my own self-blocks up, but I get to a certain point and I pass out. And it's not falling asleep because some people are like, "Oh, you fall asleep." No, I don't fall asleep. I pass out. Like I black out.
Interesting.
Yeah. I black out and I don't come back. Like I wake up like hours later and I don't dream. Nothing happens except for I come to.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can do like yoga nidra to myself, which is where you kind of get your body super relaxed and kind of go through each body point and calm yourself and relax yourself, which to me is like almost like a hypnosis thing where your whole body just feels light and like you've melted into whatever you're either sitting or laying on. But nobody can hypnotize me. I've tried several times because I think it might be funny for someone to make me quack like a duck or something, but
see, yeah,
no luck.
It's a control thing. It's a trust and control thing. If you're skeptical by nature and you don't have that sense of wanting to give over control, you won't do it. It won't happen in a million years.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Well, that guy couldn't get us, Tim. We'd be safe.
That's right.
I'd like to see him try. I'd punch him right in the face, just like the guy on the airplane.
Yeah, that Temu version of Dr. Phil. He's not going to get me. I'll tell you what. That's for sure. Our next story, Jess. I guarantee you, I would not look. I'll just put it that way.
Okay, I'm scared. Let's go.
2 women are busted for having sex in public. The duo is found trysting in broad daylight, according to Georgia cops.
You would look. You would totally look.
I would totally look. You think so?
Yes, I think you would. I think you'd get out your camera, get out your phone.
I'm going to read the story and then I will show you. Okay. And then you tell me.
Oh, maybe you'd look away.
I wouldn't look. Tisha Booth and Keisha Edom are the 2 women. The women were on a road trip to reconcile their relationship when they exited Interstate 85 in Livonia, Georgia last week. Following the duo's 7 p.m. pit stop, cops received a report of indecent exposure at the rear of the Raceway gas station.
Wow, romantic.
Yeah, right? Because whenever you want to get the relationship back on track, you should do it at the rear of the raceway. You know what I'm saying? Right on. Responding officers located a white female on top of a black female, and each of them had their pants pulled down, exposing their pelvic regions. That's in the official report. The suspects were found on a patch of grass between the raceway and a McDonald's restaurant.
Wow. And that got just a little bit more classy.
It did.
Mr.
didn't it?
McDonald's in there. The Golden Arches.
I think, yeah. I think it was Joni Mitchell that wrote that lyric once. She said, I think it was in the song. She said something about they found him on a patch of grass between the raceway and a McDonald's. I think, yeah, that's how it went. Yeah.
I know that song. I've karaoke'd it before.
Yeah. Booth was sitting straight up with her pants down on top of the Adam's pelvic region, which was also exposed. The two were in the process of having intercourse in public view when law enforcement arrived, investigators allege. Booth, 49, and Adam, 37, were arrested for public indecency and booked into the county jail in the misdemeanor charge. The alleged tryst, cops say, occurred in broad daylight in the grass beside the street. Oh, how romantic. In a Facebook post, police recommended that if individuals were tempted to reconcile your relationship with your life partner, they should get a room or go home. That's what the police said in a Facebook post.
That is wonderful.
Isn't that fun? Yeah.
Yeah.
Booth, who lives in Campobello, South Carolina, and Adam, a Georgia resident, are pictured right here, Jess. And this is
All right, let's see this lovely pair.
This is the point in our program where I tell you I wouldn't have watched.
Okay.
Now, do you believe me?
Yeah. Well, it's not what you would pay for in your girl-on-girl porn video.
It's not what I would have paid for. I wouldn't even have watched it for free.
No, you would have looked away.
Yeah, I would have looked away. Just saying. I'm not disparaging either young lady. I'm sure they're a lot of fun in bed. I'm just saying, not my cup of tea.
To each their own.
To each their own.
I don't think I would have been able to not look. I mean, because I just would have been like, what is happening?
Oh, I know.
And then I would have been laughing and pointing and probably getting out my phone.
I would have known what was happening. I probably would have written the report out for the cops. Would you like a sketch? I'll do a sketch for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would have gone and bleached my eyes.
Yeah. Would you like me to draw you like one of those French girls? I mean, that's I can do that for you. But other than that, yeah. Now our palate cleanser. Jess, before we leave.
Okay, good.
Away. Yeah, we need a little palate cleanser here. Something I realized sitting out with the chippers in the front yard when I would give them their fruit. And that's this. Little story that came across from boingboing.net. That's the name of the website, boingboing.net.
I like that.
Yeah. They have a headline here that says, wild animals get drunk more often than scientists thought.
Really?
Yeah, it's true.
Interesting.
I first realized this when Wicket was sitting out front and doing this. The head was moving.
What
like
are they
this.
getting drunk on?
Well, I thought that too. What are they getting drunk on? But then I was like, you know what? Wicket's stoned right now. And I figured out what it was. Because I would put fruit out, and Wicket would let the fruit sit for days upon days upon days.
Wow, he was making his own wine.
He's letting it ferment.
Oh, smart little guy.
Yeah. So it's long been known that occasionally wild animals inadvertently get drunk from snacking on fermented fruits. Turns out, though, that it may not be that rare as one might think. Nature's booze may also be good for them. Ethanol is far more common in nature than we may have previously realized, says Kimberly Hawkins, a behavioral ecologist at the University of Exeter. For animals that rely on sugary fruits, regular exposure to some level of ethanol is almost unavoidable. Ethanol has been part of the environment for millions of years, since flowering plants began producing nectar and fruits that could be fermented by yeast. In tropical climates, fruit can reach unsurprisingly high alcohol levels, up to 10.2% ABV in some cases. That doesn't necessarily mean they're looking to get crunk, however. See what they did there? They said crunk. From an ecological perspective, it is not advantageous to be inebriated as you're climbing around in the trees or surrounded by predators at night. That's a recipe for not having your genes passed on, says College of Central Florida molecular ecologist Matthew Kerrigan. It's the opposite of humans who want to get intoxicated but don't really want the calories. From the non-human perspective, the animals want the calories but not the inebriation. It's unclear whether animals intentionally consume ethanol for ethanol's sake, and more research is needed to understand its impact on animal physiology and evolution. However, the researchers say that ethanol consumption could carry several benefits for wild animals. First and foremost, it's a source of calories, and the odorous compounds produced during fermentation could guide animals to food sources, though the researchers say it's unlikely the animals can detect ethanol itself. I think they can. Ethanol could also have medicinal benefits. Fruit flies intentionally lay their eggs in substances containing ethanol, which protects their eggs from parasites. And fruit fly larvae increase their ethanol intake when they become parasitized by wasps. On the cognitive side, ideas have been put forward that ethanol can trigger the endorphin and dopamine system, which leads to feelings of relaxation that could have benefits in terms of sociality, says behavioral ecologist and first author Anna Boland of the University of Exeter. To test that, we really need to know if ethanol is producing a physiological response in the wild. Well, I can tell you from watching the chippers that it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
They would...
Actually... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I would just say they would purposely take the fruit I would give them.
Yeah.
They would put it aside for days on end, and then they would eat it, and then they get a little buzz from it. They would just kind of...
They're little moonshiners.
Yeah, they would rock their little buzz. So I know for a fact that they eat the fresh fruit too because they like the vitamins. But
yeah,
but they would take a couple of blueberries back with them or a couple of strawberries, and they'd let it ferment.
That's so interesting. So our dog accidentally got fermented stuff in his stomach one time. Our big boy, Indiana Jones, rest in peace, buddy. But he ate a bunch of raw dough that was rising. And I took him in to the emergency vet because it was Sunday. It was Super Bowl Sunday, like 3 years ago, I think, maybe 4. Anyway, I took him in because he was acting all weird, and we realized he ate the dough. And I took him in, and they said oftentimes what happens to the dogs is the yeast ferments in their stomach, and they actually die from alcohol poisoning.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So they got it out when I brought him home, but he was still just drunk as a skunk. Like he was like, I told him he looked like a frat boy. He was laying on the couch and he had like a little puke on the side of his face from throwing up. And
oh no!
Like with his head, he'd pick his head up and it would bobble around for a minute and then he'd lay back down.
Oh!
I was like, I had no idea. I thought, like their stomach would get all messed up from the dough, rising. I never thought about it fermenting and becoming alcohol and causing alcohol poisoning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you better keep an eye on those guys. They don't eat too much of that fermented fruit.
Oh, I don't give them too much. Yeah. I only give them a couple of berries at a time, but yeah, they
be out there pumping their stomachs.
Be out there, yeah, giving them Narcan.
Come back to me, buddy.
Come back to me, bud. So yeah. And speaking of, I told you pre-show, they're still awake. They're still out there.
I can't believe that. It's so late in the season.
Yeah. They're normally not awake beyond Halloween, but they're still awake. They're still kicking. In fact, I spent Saturday in the garage with Indy. I was cleaning out the garage on Saturday. My buddy Max came over, and he came over to help me clean the garage on Saturday. And I figured because they'd be sleeping,
yeah,
they're not awake past Halloween. I figured they'd be sleeping and I wouldn't have any issues. Well, here comes Indy, and he decided to hang out with Papa and Uncle Max. So so we had on the WWE pay-per-view on the iPad, and so he was hanging out with the boys and eating peanuts and watching us clean the garage.
Just having a boys' day.
Yep, having a boys' day. He thought it was the greatest thing ever. So
That's so funny. I wonder how long they'll stay awake because it's been, unusually warm. I know you said it's kind of an internal clock thing, but maybe that affects their internal clock somehow.
Well, they were up early this year. Normally they don't get up until April, but they were up in end of February this year.
That's interesting. So up early and going down to sleep later. So like they're just having a longer, prolonged time awake.
Longer season. Yeah. So I don't know. It's been a weird year. It's been a weird year. I mean, I enjoy every single extra moment I get with them, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just enjoying the time I have with them. They were awake today. They got extra treats.
You're gonna have to keep us posted.
Yeah, I'll let you know when eventually they stop coming around. But I mean, they're more sluggish now. They don't, they're not running around all spry and chipper. But they're.
I feel that.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, they're overtired because it's been a long year. But they're still up. So.
How fun!
Yeah. Some of them are like, I think Spud is down. I haven't seen Spud, so I think she went to bed. But there's still one
smart girl.
Yeah, there's still one or two that are awake. So there you go. But that'll do it for today. We've got a link to your 2 books. By the way, how are the books selling? Are you now a New York Times bestseller? Does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, of course, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't pay attention. I honestly, Tim, I write the books and I don't think about it. And then I'm pleasantly surprised when I get a royalty check that I have no expectations. I just enjoy writing and whatever happens, happens. So I don't know. I don't know how they're doing. I do know. Can I tell you something exciting?
Yes. Yeah.
I have another book coming out in like 8 days.
What?
Yeah, I'm so stoked. My first book that I ever wrote was called Living in Shadows. And I ended up taking my book rights back probably 6 months after it came out because I learned some stuff about the publisher that I didn't really like and I didn't want to be aligned with them. So it was my first book, it was like a big deal when it came out, and it wasn't a hard decision because what it was really offended me. But it was kind of a sad decision to have to make. So it was only out in the world for like 6 months, and then it came back. And like 8 years later, it's finally going to be back in the world. I think November 12th is the official launch date. So it's going to be called The Homecoming now. I re-edited it. I wrote a new ending. It's rebranded, and it's a whole series. So I'll be writing a new one every year.
Nice.
Because I don't have enough to do.
Yeah, because you just.
But I'm really excited.
Very cool. So that's in 8 days.
Yeah. So by the time we go ghost hunting, it'll be in the world. Maybe I can bring you a copy.
Please do. Yeah.
I will.
Yeah. Well, by gosh, look at that. So what genre is it in then?
That one is true fiction. It's paranormal fiction. It's about a girl that sees spirits, and not to get like deep into the weeds of it, but it really was like me kind of trying to explain like what I notice, because I have always seen things, and explaining that to my very religious father, who always said, "Oh, it's just demons." And I'm like, I don't think it's demons. I think it's different things. They feel different. Some of them feel less nice and some of them feel wonderful. So that's kind of she can see both the good and the bad, and that allows her to solve a murder mystery. So it's young adult. She's a teenager. So she'll have to be, my agent says she has to be a teenager for a few more books, and then I'm going to move her into college. But
oh, very nice. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Very cool. Very cool.
Surprise.
Wow. All right. Well, you know what we'll have to do? Maybe we'll do a little supernatural spotlight on the book and then throw it in supernatural news, so we get a little pub.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right. I like it. So in 8 days, and the name of the book again is?
The Homecoming, a Vivian Bennett mystery.
Wow, there you go. All right. So look for it on Jess's website. We'll have a link to Jess's website in the description of this program. So There you go. I take it people can pre-order right now?
They can pre-order the Kindle version.
Okay.
And they should be able to pre-order the printed version within the next few days. So maybe by the time they listen to this.
Okay, great. There you go. There you go. All right. So that'll do it for today. I got nothing to report. Tomorrow on the big program, Supernatural News. Thursday.
Ooh.
An old friend comes to visit. We're going to be talking about portals.
Ooh, yes.
Portals, stargates, and other such materials.
Oh, I love it.
Even ancient
can't wait.
aliens. Yeah. So we got all kinds of good stuff this week. It's November shaping up to be a good month too. So I got some good guests in the hopper for November.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
You always have good guests. You always bring it, Tim.
Trying. They don't pay me for nothing. Actually, they don't really pay me. No. I don't know who they is. But, oh well. But yeah, so tomorrow we'll reveal who the guest is for Thursday. But old friend of ours is coming back and got a good show for Thursday.
I'll be listening for the big reveal.
Let's just put it this way: there's some ancient Egypt in there too.
Oh, now you got me. There's no going back.
And a forbidden island.
Ooh.
Look at that. I've said too much. All right. With that, we're done for today. Thank you so much for joining us today, folks. We will see you tomorrow for Supernatural News and Mally Fox. For Jessica Freeberg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for joining us for the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday.